Acts 2:46-47. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved.
All right. Good morning, Boulder Valley family. We are glad you guys are here. We got a lot of people out of town. It's a little smaller group, so I'm going to try to come down here if that's all right. Plus, our topic is community, so this makes me feel like I'm connecting with you just by standing here. So, we got a lot of people out of town for the spring break and things like that. We have other people visiting, like mentioned earlier, so we're glad you guys are here visiting with us, and hope your time will be a blessing to you guys. I'm trying to think how I want to get started this morning. We are in the middle of, we're finishing up kind of a series called Getting Ready, Being Set, Eager to Grow. It's kind of our vision statement, or I guess our purpose statement for the Boulder Church. And I'm really excited about the fact that really the acronym GROW, the word GROW is an acronym, and we're going to come back throughout this year and spend a lot of time talking about each of these things. We may do a short sermon series on GO. We may do a short sermon series on walking together. We may do a class on offering our lives up, but this is really just kind of a teaser the past several weeks. So we've been going through the acronym of GROW, which is, our purpose statement is this. The purpose of the Boulder Valley Church of Christ is to go into our community seeking relationships through service, offering up ourselves to Christ as we walk through life together. I'm a very visual person, so it helps me to have pictures. So the purpose of I'm trying to do it without looking here, the purpose of the Boulder Valley Church of Christ is to go into our community seeking relationships as we serve our neighborhood. We want to be offering up our lives to Christ as we walk together through life. We spent the past 3 Sundays talking about the GRO, and this morning we'll be talking about walking together or having community, fellowship with each other. So let's try it together one time. You guys can sort of kind of cheat. You can actually see the first letter if you look behind me, okay? So let's try it together. The purpose of the Boulder Valley Church of Christ is to... Very good. Now, that had lots of enthusiasm. Keep that enthusiasm all the way to the W. You guys tend to wane off, all right? So go into our community seeking through service as we up ourselves to Christ. Now, stakes 0 already dropping off, so I'm letting you prepare. Cheat with your neighbor if you need to for this last one, all right? Offering up ourselves to Christ as we very good, through life together. We've talked about how a church needs to have upreach, where we focus on God. A church needs to have outreach, where we focus on the people who aren't here this morning. And we also need to have inreach, where we take care of each other and we love one another. So this morning we'll be talking about the inreach, loving and being in community with each other. This is really bad. I apologize. I'm trying to start to keep a list of what stories I've told you and I haven't told you. I've been here 14 months, and I'm already getting confused on what stories I've told you and haven't told you. So this, I don't think I've told you the story. If I have, you need to hear it again. It's that good. All right. I remember vividly when I was probably 18, 19 years old. I was going to college at Lubbock Christian University in Lubbock, Texas. I went to Lubbock Christian because it's out in the desert. And if you want to grow spiritually, you have to suffer by being in the desert. So I spent not just 4 years. I was super religious. I spent 5 years in Lubbock. That's how spiritual I was, or bad at keeping my credits in line. And there was some stuff going on in my life that really, really made me angry towards God. Life wasn't working out the way I felt like life should work out. How many of you guys can relate with that? Go ahead. We'll wait. Put your hands back up. You guys, okay? If you haven't had that experience yet, it's coming, all right? And it kind of got to a point that, man, maybe I kind of had a little bit of a Job moment, I guess. But I remember I drove out in the middle of the night, probably about midnight or so. I drove out on this old dirt road in Lubbock, Texas, and I went out into the middle of this field. That's all of Lubbock, Texas. It's just a big field. Man, I remember yelling and screaming at my God, how angry I was, how bitter I was. And I remember I came back to my cruddy little college rental house with 3 other guys, and the house was just filthy. We had 1 trash can. We emptied a semester kind of thing. It was just, I think I forgot to pay the heat that month probably, and I just remember coming into this house, and there's nothing welcoming about this house. There's nothing comfortable about this cruddy house. And I remember just I didn't want to go to my bedroom where I shared a room with a roommate. I just laid down on the couch and I just pulled blankets up over me, and I just remember going, I don't know if I'm interested in this God thing anymore. I think maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I shouldn't be a Christian. And trying to fall asleep. I don't know if you've been there. If you have, I'm glad you're here. But if you are there someday, I want to talk about what I hope that Christ can do in our lives. This idea of us walking together, community, this is really important, and it flies in the face of American culture. American culture kind of says, I have my car that I get in, I drive into my driveway, I push my button, I open my garage door, I drive into my garage door, I close my garage door. I do life, me and my family, we do life with ourselves. You guys have probably, I'm sure you've seen things and noticed how front porches are no longer very important in homes. Most neighborhoods are built with 6 or 8 foot high fences, so you don't have to look at and even know that you have neighbors. We have gotten where we are very much, life is about me and just my family, or me and myself. And that flies in the face of who God is from the beginning. Genesis chapter 1:26 says, then God said, let us make mankind in our image. From the very beginning, God has been in relationship with the Son and with the Holy Spirit. And so he makes us where we need to be in relationship with one another. Acts 2 is where we're taking this idea of walking together and being in relationship and friendship and community with each other. It says this, we talked about this a little bit in class this morning. Every day, the church, the new believers, they continue to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. There was a church several years ago that I thought this was kind of interesting in Texas, that they stopped doing the Lord's Supper on Sunday morning. And the reason is we've talked about this a little bit, that they said, we've taken what the Lord's Supper should be, a meal, a time of sitting around a table, a time of being in each other's lives and each other's homes, and we've kind of narrowed it down and streamlined it so we can get it done in 10 minutes. And that's not a sin. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand that. But this church said, we shouldn't do that. So they only did the Lord's Supper in home churches, in small groups, in people's homes. I love, matter of fact, one of our small groups that meets right now. Every Sunday, we have some people that meet together, and they eat a meal together, but then they break the bread again. You guys are doubling up. Are you taking it here too, Seth? You guys are being selfish with the Lord. I like that. You're taking it twice in a day. That's good, okay? They sit around a table in community, and they break bread together. And I'm afraid that if we just have this idea that break off the piece of bread, take this little thing, okay, there, I've done that, we are missing out on what the first century church used to do. They used to be in each other's homes daily, spending time with one another. We read in Ecclesiastes 9:12, 2 are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they'll keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Cam, do you want to help me out here? Camden's going to help me out here with this idea. So I've got some, Brad, sorry, I think I stole these from the youth group. What are these for? Is this when the kids act up, Brad? What is this? Yeah? No wonder, man, there's only a few of them over here this morning. Apparently you've been coming down on them. Come on up here, Camden. These are little bamboo reeds, I guess? Is that probably what they are, I guess? You're pretty strong. Can you break that for me? Oh, like a man, like a boss. Well done, all right? Okay. All right, well, the one's pretty good. What do you think you can do 2? I haven't got a skinnier one for you there. You can't use your knee either, just so you know. Hey, oh, wow. Mitch, I'd like to apologize. We'll get him to clean up afterwards, okay? All right. It says a strand of 3 cords is not easily broken. Let's take this up a notch. And I have backup just in case you're stronger than I thought and you could break 3 of them, okay? Grab them there. Oh, my goodness. All right. Was that a little harder? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, see, now you're ruining my point. I didn't think you'd be able to break 3. All right. So here, now break that many. Yeah, try that. I should have brought rope up here instead. Oh, you can't do it. All right, give him a hand. All right, give him a hand. Camden, thank you, kinda. I appreciate that. All right. I should have told him ahead of time, hey, wimp out on that third one. All right. Did it get harder and harder? All right, well, that's my point I was trying to make anyways. All right. You guys, I hope you've never had this in time of your life, but you probably have, where something tragic happens. And if you don't have somebody to call, if you don't have somebody to sit around with and be angry or be sad with, that's rough, isn't it? But when you have other people who can sit with you and they can be angry, they can be upset, that makes a huge, huge difference. I worked with a young man for many years in youth ministry who his whole thing, ever since he was a little kid, he wanted to be in the military. And I mean, even in junior high, he used to read through military manuals and history of war and battle and all these things like this. He would show up to youth group and he would have a huge backpack on. The backpack would just be filled with weights because he was getting ready to join the military in 7 years kind of thing. I mean, this guy was looking forward to being in the military. And one thing about this young man is that he was very, very independently strong. And I remember saying to him, Alex, we've got this event going on, man. You should come hang out. We're doing small groups. In our small groups, we sit down in small groups and we have conversations and we help each other with struggles and battles. And Alex would always say, no, I'm not doing that. I don't need that. I got my own quiet time. I'm good with God. I don't need other Christians. And I remember pointing out to him, that's pretty impressive, Alex, because Jesus, the Son of God, that guy who could walk on water and cast demons out, when he was going through a hard time right before his crucifixion, he needed to be surrounded with friends. But hey, sounds like you've got this covered. You don't need anybody. Jesus needs help. You don't. And I thought it was kind of brilliant. He went to the military, and they beat that out of that boy with push-ups and sit-ups and running. And they said, we don't care about you as an individual. We care about you having your brother's back. And he came back and he told me, he said, there's a phrase they said over and over and over again, especially towards me, Rob, the soldier who fights alone dies. Even the most basic military strategies in all our history says, don't try to fight by yourself. You won't make it. We are better off when we're together. We need to be around each other to give advice and encouragement to each other. I'm sure if we had time, I'd have you raise your hands and share. You could point people out in this room and say, man, I remember when I was going through this, and brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so, they gave me advice that got me through those hard times. Think about that. We see it throughout Scripture where Moses had just started leading the people of God out of Egypt through the desert, and all day long, he was running meetings trying to work people's fights out and quarrels out. And his father-in-law came to him and said, you have to stop doing it that way. You're going to wear yourself out. And his father-in-law gave him great advice. We see the story of Esther, this young teenage girl. You guys kind of know that kind of story, I bet, okay? This young teenage girl who she was a Jew, but this evil king didn't know that. And he married Esther. And this evil king had a plot to kill thousands of other Jewish people. And Esther didn't know what to do. She was terrified, and she went to Mordecai. And Mordecai gave her good advice and encouragement and said, perhaps for this very reason, for a time like this, you've come to this power. And she saved the lives of thousands of Jews. Story lots of us grew up hearing when we were little kids, Shadrach, Meshach, and one bad amigo, okay? These 3 teenage boys, no older than you guys, stood up against the most powerful king. It's probably a little easier to stand up when Shadrach stood up and he saw 2 others standing with him. We have more courage when we surround ourselves with friends and family. Amen? We need to be in a community to give each other advice and encouragement. And sometimes that advice and encouragement comes through tenderness and through love and through conversations and meals together. But sometimes that needs to be, well, maybe we need more forward advice or encouragement. Maybe here's a better picture of what I'm talking about. Every now and then we need a kick in the rear from the people who love us. Okay. So time out for a second. Todd just asked me this question last weekend. He said, so you did youth ministry for 20 years, Rob, and now you're preaching. What's the biggest difference? And I honestly, I've been thinking about this. Tammy has talked to me about this. I think the biggest difference between how I did youth ministry and I'm preaching now is I don't show you as many stupid videos. I really think that's the biggest difference. Then with teens, I'm always like, I got 5 minutes, I've lost their attention. I'll show them a stupid video, and that'll make them laugh. And then I got 5 more minutes to talk to them before they run a point I'm trying to make. All right? So I'm going to show you a stupid video. I hope that's okay with you. You may be like, what in the world? Just remember, please forgive me, 20 years of youth ministry. It has to come out every now and then. This does have a point. This is from a movie called Talladega Nights. And in this movie, a race car driver by the name of Ricky Bobby has had a wreck. And Ricky Bobby believes that he can't walk anymore. The doctors say, no, it's just all in his mind. So I know this is ridiculous, thank you, but let's watch. There is a point, I promise, but let's watch this silly clip, shall we?
Everyone's real friendly. I mean, it doesn't hurt being Ricky Bobby. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So how's the physical therapy going?
Oh, I gave that up. Yeah, I gave that up after maybe the first day. Within the first hour, I gave that up. I'm through lying to myself, you know. It's time to be mature about this and just face facts. I bought myself a $100,000 handicap accessible van with the captain's chairs and the DVD plasma screens in the back for the kids.
You all paid up on that?
Oh, yeah, that's all paid in full. It's parked out there.
Hold on, man. Hold. We gotta tell him. No, I don't care what the doctor said. We gotta tell him now.
Ricky, the doctor told us that we should let you work it out in your own sweet time, but Ricky, you can walk.
What'd you just say?
He's telling you the truth, man. It's all in your head.
You sick. I mean, you walk in that door on your 2 legs all fat and cocky and looking at me in my chair, and you tell me it's all in my head? I hope that both of you have sons, handsome, beautiful, articulate sons who are talented and star athletes, and they have their legs taken away. I mean, I pray you know that pain and that hurt.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby! Don't you put that on us! You are not paralyzed!
I am so paralyzed.
No!
Rough on him now.
No, he needs to know.
Okay.
He's always crying.
Tough love it is. Tough love. Wake up, idiot.
You want to know what I am? You want to see what my life is?
Don't do it.
You want to see what's going on here?
Don't you stick that knife in your leg.
Oh! Oh, man! Ow!
Well, hold on.
Ow! Oh, man!
Hold on now. Hold on.
Oh, that hurt!
Walk it off.
Oh, man!
Walk it off.
Ow!
Stretch.
Ah!
Hey, man.
Stretch it
Hey,
out.
man. You can walk. You can walk.
Wow!
You can walk.
Okay. Now you're like, okay, now tie that in. Let's say that makes sense. The point is this, is that there are times that we need to love each other enough to have tough love. There's times where we don't need to just beat around the bush and just try to be polite and just go, well, I know this brother or sister, I know they're doing this thing and it's wrong and it's hurting their family and it's hurting us, but I'm just going to stay over here and I'm going to give them their privacy. I'm going to pray about that. I'll leave them alone. That's wrong. There are times that we need to be forward with each other, not out of angerness or bitterness, but out of love. That we say to each other, you've got to change this about your life because you're not living how God is calling you to live. And that's only going to lead to hurt and pain. Jesus did this with Peter. When Peter had the attitude where he was saying, Jesus, you're not going to die on the cross. I'll never let you die on the cross. And Jesus loved Peter enough to say, get behind me, Satan. You don't have the things of God in mind, but the things of the world. We see this once again, poor Peter. Peter, he's trying to get figured out in his mind, can I be around both Jews and can I be around both Gentiles? And there was a time where he was sitting with the Gentiles and eating with them until he saw other Jews come in and he moved away to go sit with the Jews. And Paul loved Peter enough to get angry at him and tell him you're being a hypocrite. Man, we see this in the life of King David. David has had an affair. He has murdered a man. He is living a lie. He is keeping his sin secret. And Nathan the prophet loves him enough to get in his face and tell him, you have sinned and you need to make it right with the Lord. Dear family, may we never ever confuse loving one another with cowardness. Too many times we just have the attitude, well, man, I hope they figure that out. No, we need to love each other enough to be in each other's face sometimes and challenge each other. I love how Proverbs 27:6 says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Wounds from a friend can be trusted. If a friend says something to you that is challenging and hurtful, you can trust those words to wrestle with them. I like how a certain Christian girl music group put it together. They said, a real friend stabs you in the face, not in the back. A real friend will get in your face and be honest with you about the things that we need to change. Walking together teaches us to be patient with one another. I don't think I've told you this. When I was in New Mexico and I first started youth ministry, I got to lead worship a lot at this little church. And I wanted to always sing the newer songs and the upbeat songs and the songs where I was trying to get the youth group to clap and that kind of stuff. And there was one little old sister who used to sit in the audience. And every time I would get up to lead singing and I would start to lead singing, she would do this. And she would sit there with her hands over her ears the entire time I would sing, and she'd put her hands down, would make announcements, I'd walk back on the stage, and she'd do that again. I remember I was telling our teens how, man, whenever somebody gets baptized, angels are celebrating. God's throwing a party in heaven. And so, man, we need to celebrate when somebody gets baptized. And I remember somebody got baptized and came out of the water, and the youth group started clapping. And, man, Sister Bergen, no, what was her name? What was her name? Bernice leaned up and started flipping kids on the ears. You guys, stop that. Quit that clapping in church. Quit being excited that somebody just gave their life to Jesus. And we came up after me, and she was angry that I had told the kids we should celebrate. And you know what? Me and Sister Bernice, we didn't like each other. And you know what? We were around each other for 5 years. And God finally put in my heart, hey, Rob, why don't you go hug Miss Bernice? Why don't you ask her about her day? Why don't you ask her about what you can be praying for her? Why don't you actually every now and then stop by her house and just say hi? And me and Miss Bernice, we didn't agree on a lot of things. But I remember as I left little Lovington, New Mexico, her hugging me and saying, we're going to miss you. And who knows, I might even miss your singing. Reality, even in a room this size, there's some of you guys, you think, oh, that person, they really get on my nerves. Good. We shouldn't go to church at a place where we get to pick out who we hang out with like we're looking through a catalog for a new computer or a new desk. Oh, I like this, I don't like that, I like this. No, God has put us all in here together. And if there's somebody here that kind of rubs you the wrong way, you know what my encouragement to you is? Hug them. Love them anyways. That's what God has called us to do, what kind of family he's called us to be. James 3:18. You can develop, I love this is out of the Message, you can develop a healthy, robust community that lives right with God and enjoys its results only if you do the hard work of getting along with each other, treating each other with dignity and honor. For some of us, chances are actually, I can start pointing, because where we're sitting, there's a pretty good vibe that's the people we enjoy being around. And that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But, we need to also be people who are willing to put in the hard work. I'm getting along with people that we don't always agree with. Amen? A couple more here. We need to walk together because we need to rescue others in danger. I remember when I was doing youth ministry at a church, there was a young man, we'll call him Steve. Steve was probably about 15, 16 years old. He was 16 because he was driving, I remember, and Steve started messing around with drugs. As a matter of fact, Steve started selling drugs. And we were doing this thing with the high school guys where we were kind of going through the idea of being a band of brothers when that movie series came out and reading through some books about how men need to have each other's backs in the church. And I remember one day after class, somebody came up and they said, hey, did you hear Steve? You know, he got caught by the principal. He got kicked out. The police are probably going to get involved. And I thought, you know what? I'm calling an audible really quick. So I told all the high school guys, don't come into worship yet. We're all going to meet in this back room together. And we're going to talk about what is our plan to go out and fight for and rescue Steve. And so we had about 12, 15 guys in this back room, and I remember one of the elders kind of looked over at the youth group section, and he noticed none of the young men were there, and so he came looking for us, and he opened up the door to where we were, and I thought, uh-oh, I didn't tell the elders that I was going to be ditching the first part, having these guys work on what we could do to rescue Steve, and I just explained really quick. I said, Jack, sorry. I said, what we're doing is this, and these guys were meeting, and we're praying, and we're coming up with a plan on who's going to call Steve, and who's going to get lunch with Steve, and who's going to get in Steve's face, and so, as soon as we're done, we'll get into worship. And I love what my elder said. My elder said, Rob, take your time. This is worship. This is what church is supposed to be. You take as long as you need in here with these young men. We need to rescue each other. When marriages hurt, when families hurt, when addiction sneaks in, when sickness, loss of jobs, you name it, when those things are going on, we need each other. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Does he not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he will joyfully put it on his shoulder and go home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me. I have found my lost sheep. We need each other. Christ knows that. That's why he put us together. And a matter of fact, it may sound kind of funny. We connected. I was saying we want to connect, go in relationships. We want to go into our community seeking relationships through service. This is kind of our outreach idea, that we want to start going into our neighborhood here, the places around here, and we want to serve people and get a relationship with them. But Christ tells us that, you know what? That go also, you can also do evangelism. You can reach out to people. You can make a difference in your community by the way that we walk and do life together. It says this is Jesus towards the end of his ministry. He says, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. I think sometimes we have this idea, they go, oh, well, if what we need to do is we need to go out and love people outside these walls, and we do. But Jesus says that if we will love each other passionately, the world will look at us and say, why are you guys like that? How is it you guys are patient with each other and put up with each other and love each other, and you're there for each other? That the way we love one another in this room can actually, when people visit, they should be able to look and say, I want that. I want to be a part of that. I love from the message, the Hebrews 10 says, let's see how inventive we can be in encouraging and love and helping out. Not avoiding worship together as some have done, but spurring each other on, especially as the big day approaches. And I love this idea of how inventive, how creative can we be as we love each other. So, I'll send this out on Monday, but my challenge for you this week is this. Creatively love somebody that's part of our family this week. If it's a text, awesome. If it's flowers, awesome. If it's dropping off a meal, if it's taking a day and praying for them, how creative, how inventive can you guys be? Can your family be? Can you be loving people in this room? Oh, we need to do that so that we can see how God can use that in powerful ways. So, let's go back to that field out in Lubbock, Texas. There I was. I had told God how angry and how bitter I was. Gone back to this cruddy rental house. I'm laying in bed, and at about 5 in the morning, the phone rings. And that's never a good sign. When it rings that early, it's never good news, is it? And I remember kind of sitting there going, why is it ringing right now? And this is probably going to be bad news. It's probably something that just makes my life worse. Some tragedy's probably happened. And I pick up the phone, and I say hello, and on the other side of the phone is my brother who lives 3 hours away. My brother John said, Rob, I woke up about an hour ago, and I cannot stop thinking about you. God, just like God's kind of put you on my heart. And sorry I'm calling so early, but brother, is everything okay? And I just remember sitting there crying, going, all right, you're there. You've got my back. You're going to show me your love through community, through fellowship, through other people. So, This may seem a little strange, but we're going to try something that's a little different. We didn't do a stand and greet time earlier because we're going to do it now. And then after we do that for a little bit, we're going to close with a song. But during the stand and greet time, here's what we want to challenge you to do. Let's go over, talk to somebody, introduce yourself if you need to even. But let's go a little beyond just the surface of, hey, where are you from? Hey, nice weather outside. Hey, how about this? Hey, and just, so it's going to feel awkward, and that's okay. So you can say, Rob's a nerd. I can't believe he's making us do this. But how are you? What can I be praying for you? What can I do for you? Let's try to get beyond just kind of a surface fellowship and try to get a little deeper in community by sharing our lives with each other. So let's all stand, and we'll take about 5 minutes, mingle around, greet some people, ask some people how you can be praying for them, and then we'll finish up with a song and a prayer.